Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at about 30 balance changes, taking a look at all the new Buffies, and also Nario's hypercharge as well. So if you guys want to stay in tune with the best meta information on YouTube right now, the best balance change talk, make sure you guys subscribe to this channel. And without further ado, let's jump into the balance changes then. So first and foremost, I want to say I'm a little bit disappointed with this set of balance changes, mainly because I don't think it will shift the meta all too much. But let's just dive into it anyway, and then I'll give you guys my thoughts with every single one. So starting off with Lumi. Lumi is receiving 2 buffs. So this is one I'm actually positively surprised about, because I think Lumi should actually be pretty good with these changes. So her main attack projectile is going from 3,200 to 3,500. So basically all you need to know is a 9% buff to how fast she can fire out her projectiles. So that is actually faster than ever before, because in the past they had previously nerfed this quite hard. They nerfed her range, health, etc., other things as well. So this will be a nice change. Of course, she still hasn't got the range that she used to have. That was probably the best thing about her. But projectiles flying out, more damage, yeah, she's going to be much better because of this. And her health is going from 6,200 to 7,000, so a 13% buff. So essentially 2 10% buffs here with Lumi. So Lumi with her previous buffs, I thought she's going to be a lot better. I definitely overrated her a little bit, and so did the pros. The pros started going Lumi a lot, but a lot of brawlers that she was good into just removed out of the meta, like Frank, for example, and Hank. But I think with these buffs, surely she's going to be in and around at least a B, maybe even A tier. Next up on the buff list, we have Lola. So Lola's super damage fall off. So essentially, you've got that little circle around Lola. And if your clone falls within that circle, the damage will drop off. Of course, that would be too strong if the damage was too strong, like too much. But before, you would remove 50% of your main attack damage essentially with that clone. Now it's removing only 33% of that damage. So this is a substantial buff. I didn't actually figure out the numbers because it's glitched in the dev build, but this is going to improve Lola a lot. It's actually going to make it a lot more worthwhile, especially just putting Lola closer to you. Sometimes you want to try and throw it outside of a circle, but then it just wouldn't make sense. It always makes sense just putting the clone right on top of you, right? So you're just going to be dealing a lot more damage now. Is Lola going to become meta because of this? I'm not entirely sure, but I think she will reappear in the pro meta again because she's a very versatile brawler. Next up, we have 2 changes with Fang. First off, we have a buff to his base health. It is going from 9,000 to 9,600, which is a 7% buff, which is actually quite substantial when you think about it. Fang was like a half decent niche pick when it comes down to like bounty, countering those snipers. You know, pros wouldn't often go in, but he was always an option at the end of a draft. Now I think he'll be a very, very solid option. A 600 health buff is really substantial, guys, especially to an assassin, which again can counter a lot of the meta options. I definitely think he'll be more of a threat in bounty knockout in particular, and maybe even just an option into squishy brawlers in general. So yeah, definitely see Fang maybe go up to C, maybe at highest B tier in the meta. And then his projectile now, he has now a projectile for his Fang shoe. So everyone's been asking for this for years because his shoe was a little bit harder to hit. Now with this, where you can literally aim your Fang shoe a lot more clearer. You know, these 2 buffs could actually be a lot more impactful than you realize. I'm excited to try out these Fang changes. Next up, we have a buff with Serge, which is just absolutely pointless. His supercharge is going from 70 to 75 with his super. I don't know what that's supposed to really do. I think that impacts Serge when you jump on top of 2 brawlers instead of 1. That might help you cycle your super faster. I don't know. It's basically impossible at pro level to do that. I don't see anyone do that with Serge yet. It's probably one of the most pointless balance changes of this bunch. It's not going to have any impact. So actually, speaking of another pointless balance change, Maisy's star power, pinpoint precision, damage, extra damage when you hit it at the tip of the attack. The damage boost is going from 20% to 25%. Again, some people might say it's underrated, and you know, we like to troll Maisy a lot. But in reality, is this going to do anything? No. I mean, yes, it's nice that they're looking at this star power because it's quite clearly the worst one by far. But it's quite clear that probably this star power just needs a complete rework rather than a buff. So we're waiting for the Buffies with Maisy. Yeah, it's just pointless again. Next up, we have 2 nice buffs with Draco. And this could definitely help him get back into the meta, because right now he's not being played at all. He's definitely a D tier brawler in the meta. So his super damage reduction. So if you guys didn't know, when he pops his super, it gets a movement speed boost and a damage reduction shield. it's going from 15% damage reduction to 20%. So if you guys didn't know, a couple of years ago when he was released, this originally was 25% damage reduction. They nerfed it to 15%, one of the only nerfs he received in a long time. So he's getting a little bit of love back there. So he's just going to be able to tank more, which is, well, of course, what Draco is, right? It's a tank. He should be able to tank a lot more shots. And next up, they are buffing his super movement speed. So this is the thing that pretty much killed it. Well, he received a lot of nerfs with like his hypercharge and just the amount of damage he dealt there, which definitely hurt him, but his hypercharge is still fantastic. I think this was the biggest impact, nerfing it. So before it was 20%, it got nerfed to 15. Now they're reverting this nerf. So he's going to have a 20% super movement speed boost when he pops it. So yeah, I think Draco is definitely going to be back in the meta. I think he's definitely going to be back into the hot zone meta, at least like guaranteed with these changes. Is he going to improve anything above that? Definitely not, but yeah, it's nice. Draco will actually have a use case in the meta now. Next up, we have a buff with myself. Myself is receiving a buff to the gadget. So the gadget, time for a slow song duration, it's going from 15 seconds to 12 seconds. I actually kind of like this. I mean, I mainly like it because the sound effects are so funny, right? It's time to go slow, but I mean, is it really going to impact him in the meta? I'm not entirely sure. I mean, maybe there's some use case for it, but I just love the extra damage with Jaeyoung because his biggest weakness is his lack of DPS. So yeah, is this going to impact him? I don't know. We'll test it out. I mean, at maximum, it's just going to mean that you have 2 different gadgets to use, but I still think it's like a solid B tier Brawl in the meta. Daryl is receiving a buff to his super damage. His super damage is going from 800 per hit to 1,300. So this is a 63% buff. At first, I was like, okay, this is pretty pointless. Like, is that really going to do too much? But actually, when you think about it, 63%, I mean, it's just going to help him a little bit because with Daryl, we have 2 rolls. So if you knock back the opponents maybe even twice with 1 roll, you could get some good damage. I mean, will it really impact him that much? It might at maximum just make him like a C tier brawler. I doubt really a super damage buff is going to make him a C tier brawler, guys, but it'll just feel a little bit nicer. Maybe it'll just help you confirm kills a little bit easier. But yeah, don't anticipate him being too strong with it, but yeah, it's an interesting change. GG is receiving 2 buffs, and the first one is to her main attack speed boost. So when you just use your attacks, right, you hold down the attack button, you get a speed boost. So that's going from 30% to 35%. So that's the fastest she's ever been. Can you really feel the impact here? Probably not in that much, but it's a nice change. At least you can use your attack to just gain some positioning. But the big buff is with her main attack maximum ammo. So before this actually got nerfed, they are reverting this nerf. So right now she has 8 maximum ammo, so that's just how many attacks she can put out with that full ammo bar. That has been buffed up to 10, so this is just gonna increase her maximum damage output, especially when you're teleporting onto somebody. Again, is this going to make GG meta? I don't think so at all. Maybe there's some case that she's underrated, but I think in pro play, GG is just a very flawed brawler, and I don't think she's really going to make that much of an impact. But I could be wrong. I highly doubt it. I think at maximum she's going to be like a C tier brawler in the meta, but I would predict still like a D tier. And lastly for the buffs, we have a buff with Glowies. So they definitely over nerfed Glowy the last set of balance changes. In all honesty, probably was like a D tier brawler in the meta after testing him out a lot more, maybe even clawing into the F tier. He just wasn't good whatsoever with that attack range nerf. It pretty much killed him. So they have basically gone in between what it was pre-nerf and what it is right now. So his main attack range is going from 6.6 tiles to 7.3 tiles. So that's a 10% buff overall. So again, before it was like a 20% nerf. So if you're trying to reach this place in between and see where the sweet spot is, again, I think it's still glitched in the dev build, so you can't really see that in plain sight. But this will definitely put Glowy back in the meta. I'll be interested to see whether you can really latch onto the enemies at all, because with that previous attack range nerf, you literally couldn't get in range of the enemies ever because the attack range was so short. So let's hopefully find a sweet spot, because Glowy before the nerf was completely broken. We want to make him not too cheesy, right? So now moving on to the nerfs, and the first nerfs are going to be with Leon. And finally, people can just stop yapping in my ear. I don't know how deluded some people thinking that this isn't a bug. So Leon's got a bug fix. I'm going to count it as balance change because it was literally the reason why Leon was so broken. So if you guys didn't know, he had a bug where if you had the smoke trails star power equipped, I think with Buffy, and you had the lollipop drop gadget Buffy combined, you would get both of the speed boosts stacked which of course isn't supposed to happen, right? You're literally Lightning McQueen faster. You're probably one of the fastest brawlers in the entire game, just with a click of a button. Of course that's broken. It was pretty much unstoppable and one of the best brawlers in the game. That bug has been fixed now, guys, okay? You can stop yapping at me. And then the next nerf is going to be with his base health. His base health is going from 7,200 to 6,600. So that's quite a substantial nerf. A 600 health nerf. So I think this is going to impact Leon a lot. I probably see him being a mediocre brawler, like a B, C tier. I'll predict probably B tier because at least he's still got some buffies. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be nowhere near as much as a problem because that bug fix is such a heavy nerf. You don't even realize. Ziggy is receiving 3 nerfs, which might seem a little bit harsh, but Ziggy, I think in the previous meta was an S tier brawler. And I was a little bit apprehensive in putting him there because he was mainly good as a last pick inside of ranked. But again, as the meta develops, he was being picked even earlier in draft. I mean, there's hardly any true counter to Ziggy when the map had a lot of walls. He was so toxic, and the main reason why he was so good is because of his main attack projectile. Even high mobility brawlers, even fast brawlers struggled to juke out Ziggy's attack. You just couldn't react in time by the time his projectile landed. So this was a previous problem with brawlers like Grom in the past. He was just far too toxic and one of the most annoying brawlers in the game because I always banned him out in ranked. So just to give a bit of context, because people thought that Ziggy wasn't actually that strong. So his main attack projectile delay is being nerfed. So previously it was 0.8 seconds. So this was before his buff. Right now, it's 0.7 seconds. So if you're trying to find a sweet spot, it's 0.75 seconds with these balance changes. So just like the tiniest of difference. But let's see where it lands. It's kind of hard to predict right now. I'm going to guess that you're not going to hit every single time, which is how it should be with Ziggy. Again, it was literally impossible to miss most of the time with his main attack, which just obviously shouldn't be a thing, right? His super charge rate is being reduced. So before it took 5 hits to gain his super, they're nerfing this to 6 hits. I like this change because Ziggy's super is one of the most toxic inside of a game. It is literally, it just gains you so much control. Even if it doesn't guarantee you kills, you just throw out the super and you have to run away from it, especially if the enemy is running the slow star power. And lastly, we have his electric shuffle gadget cooldown going from 13 seconds to 17 seconds. Again, this gadget was just insufferable. It's the fact that you could literally just gain kills by just spamming this gadget, and you could literally time it. So when your gadget shoots, you can quickly shoot yourself, and then you're literally pinching with yourself, if that makes sense. You're like guaranteed hits, and you're guaranteed just to get kills because, again, this gadget just fired so fast that enemies couldn't even react. So yeah, really nice nerfs to Ziggy. I'm still anticipating him being probably like a meta brawler, B-tier brawler, but he'll be nowhere near as strong as before. So now moving over to the next nerf, which this one confuses me the most out of all of the balance changes, to be honest. I kind of get their thought process, but it's not executed well at all in my opinion. So we got Grom. So Grom is receiving a nerf, which is just bizarre to say because he's like an F-tier brawler in the meta. He has been a D-tier brawler in the pro meta for 2 years, probably even longer. He's just not even been used as the last pick in bounty or knockout ever because of his main attack. It's too easy to juke out consistently. We all know, though, at like below Masters, Legendary, Mythic, that he has a high win rate and it can be seen as a strong brawler, but they shouldn't be nerfing him overall. It just doesn't make sense. Anyways, his main attack damage is going from 2,280 to 2,060, so that's a 10% nerf to his main attack damage. What they're trying to do, which we've done in the past, right? They're trying to take some power out of like the base kit and then improve them through the star power, through the hypercharge, through something that the more, you know, competitive experienced players will experience. They're trying to shift the power, but they've took power out of him overall, which again, he's an F-tier brawler in the meta. So his star power X factor damage boost is going from 30% to 35%. But with this is what the numbers land at when you hit your X factor star power before. So right now in game, he deals 2,964 damage. And after these nerfs, he'll deal 2,781 damage. So that's essentially a 200 damage nerf when you're hitting people with that X Factor star power. So Grom probably is going to be the worst brawler inside of the game now. Yeah, this just, again, doesn't really make sense to me. I think they should have at least made it so the star power is like the extra damage doesn't leave him with a damage nerf. I can't wrap my head around it. You can literally see I'm just mind blown. Grom is receiving a nerf. Mortis is next on the nerf list, so his star power called Snake, his Buffy in particular, the damage reduction is going from 40% to 35%, so this is a really nice nerf. I think Mortis is still an S-tier brawler inside of the meta in pro play right now. He's so annoying just because he can easily tank a lot of damage, he can easily confirm kills with both gadgets and especially the other one. So yeah, that's the only nerf he's receiving, so just a 5% nerf, which in total is not going to do much. Again, I'm a bit disappointed. Maybe the meta will shift a little bit, so he's power crept a bit, but again, a brawler like Mortis shouldn't really be S-tier. Next up, we have two nerfs to Pierce. The first one being to his super damage. So normally, if you hit somebody with your super, it's 3,200 damage. Now it is 2,800. So this is a nice nerf, 13% nerf in total. Yeah, this is great. This will also impact his hypercharge. So yeah, it's kind of like a 2-on-1 nerf there. And then moving over to his star power, swim possible. So the slow star power, his slow is being reduced from 30% slow to 25% slow. So I like these nerfs with Pierce. I think the thing that I would have changed, which I've explained already with Pierce, is his bottomless mags gadget. The fact that you can essentially get free slows in a quick short of time, like quick space of time. I didn't really like that with Pierce, but I'm glad. The one thing that I wanted to change was definitely the super damage. His super was just too easy to hit, and it dealt too much damage, so they had to change one or two things, right? So this is a nice step. Let's see where he lands. I still anticipate him being an S-tier brawler. Clancy is receiving a nerf, so he went from an F-tier, D-tier brawler in the meta to S-tier with his last changes. He received quite a few of those buffs, and yeah, especially in ladder. So if you guys don't know what ladder is, just trophies, the trophy mode. He's completely broken because you're pretty much guaranteed to face off against something that will feed you. So his main attack range has been reduced from 8.3 tiles to 7.6 tiles. So this is an 8% nerf overall, which will go across all of his levels, I believe. That's what I mean. They didn't specify where this nerf was, so I just assume it's across all of it. Anyways, I think this will impact Clancy quite a fair bit. Will it make him? I think yeah, probably make him quite a bit worse, to be honest, I imagine. But his buffs overall were pretty nice. I probably see him going down to like the A-tier brawler in the meta, because still once you get to that final level, he's still very, very strong. But in pro play, he's very counterable. So we'll have to wait and see. That's a big nerf, though. BB is next on the nerf list, and a lot of people questioned on my balance change list why I didn't include BB. I just think it's pretty obvious in terms of what nerfs she needed, so I didn't want to throw it out there, especially with her hypercharge, her vitamin booster. What they're actually changing is not what I would have changed, but let's see what they do. So they've done star power home run damage bonus going from 20% to 15%. Again, I don't think that was the problem with BB at all. I didn't even notice that extra damage, to be honest, but yeah, it's a nerf, so a lot of people will welcome it. And the next one was with her vitamin booster gadget. So with the Buffy, from your next attack, you would heal. So you would heal 60% of the damage. Now it's only 50% of damage. So again, this is a nice change. What I would have done is just remove the extra knockback. It's just not needed at all in terms of her kit. So yeah, if she's still going to be strong after these, which I still anticipate her being an A-tier brawler in the meta probably, I think they should just remove the knockback. Again, this could make her a pretty bad brawler, but it's just not necessary. The last balance change we're going to see is with Nario. So she's receiving 3 nerfs, but I still probably anticipate her being pretty strong because she's also getting a hypercharge. Anyways, let's jump into the nerf. So main attack, Snake. So her second projectile will no longer auto-aim into bushes. So if you guys didn't know beforehand, you could just literally shoot out your first projectile and it would automatically home in onto people inside bushes. Literally, of course, that's broken. That is just one of the most dumb things I've ever heard of. And yeah, at least it doesn't auto-aim into bushes now, which is nice. The next one is, well, which is basically receiving 2 nerfs to her snakes. So her super snakes, or the one that's activated through her star power. So before, the snake's base health would be 3,200. That's been nerfed to 2,400. So a 25% nerf. And the snakes from either the star power or the super will no longer explode when defeated. That was one of the biggest annoyances with Nario by far, is when you destroy the snake and you're like, oh phew, that didn't even manage to get me. But because of the explosion radius being so big, it would still poison you. And you guys know that Nario's super damage is just insane. So now it only explodes when it just latches onto you and deals damage. So that's actually a pretty nice change overall. So Nario, in my opinion, will still be an S-tier brawler in the meta, but she won't be as toxic, I believe. I still think there's a big problem with her main attack auto-aim, to be honest. I don't get how they've not tackled that. So before we go into the Buffies, let's talk about Nario's hypercharge. So Nario's hypercharge is called Twin Snakes. So you guys saw it in the Brawl talk. You saw everybody's reaction. We were just like, what? At least the biggest positive is that her snakes are receiving a health nerf, so I guess that's okay, but that is hypercharge looks very broken, guys. I'm not gonna try and smother over it. Yeah, it looks insane. So her hypercharge takes 2.5 supers to charge up, which shouldn't be a problem. The biggest problem with Nario is getting that first super. Sometimes it can take a little bit long, but once you cycle that first super, it's fine. It's gonna be broken. And because with this hypercharge, if you fire out your main attack projectile, then hold your super, you can just launch your hypercharge snakes across the map. And there's 6 of them. They also leave a poison trail. This looks absolutely, yeah, bonkers. It's going to be absolutely broken. So because of its hypercharge, I think even without the hypercharge, Nario would have been next brawler in the meta, but she's still easily going to remain the best brawler in the game, in my opinion. Its hypercharge looks nuts. So now let's move over to the Buffies. So just not really a spoiler, but a lot of these brawlers, especially at the beginning, that receive a Buffy, well, Buffy, just their gadgets, stop house, whatever. Yeah, if they're going to receive these Buffies, they're pretty much guaranteed to, like, minimum be A tier in the meta, in my opinion. So, yeah, just if you guys are wondering whether they're going to be strong or not, it's basically guaranteed. So, start off with Colette. Colette is receiving a rework to her Nar gadget. So, before, it just increased her damage with her next attack. It was alright. I mean, it actually wasn't alright. It was terrible. So they reworked it. So now she fires a projectile that charms people for 1 second. So just think of it like Ollie's Hypnotize. I think that's essentially what it is. It just stops them from doing anything. I think it might not, like, they don't, like, follow you. I don't know. I just have to test it a bit more. But, yeah, it does use 1 ammo. And then the buffied version, it pierces environments and brawlers. So this could be clutch in a few situations, and I imagine, you know, in like hot zone maybe, or just where environments where people group up, this gadget could actually get a lot of value. We'll have to wait and see. It's an interesting one, but will it be better than the second gadget? Colette's second gadget, Gotcha, is receiving a slight rework as well. So Colette will fire a projectile that heals for 80% of the damage dealt. It uses an ammo, and you only have 3 uses, but it's just like Shelly's Clay Pigeon, where you can hold on to those 3 uses. So that's actually really powerful when you think about it, because you can just get some extra healing in one instance, and then you can save it for the next fight and then get some extra healing there. I mean, yeah, it's definitely going to be an improvement. And then the buffied version will mean that you can overheal, creating a shield of maximum 1000 health. So I don't think this gadget Buffy is actually going to be too strong, but I just think the actual rework and just what the gadget does anyways will probably lean to be the better gadget, but who knows? I think the Hypnotize with the first gadget is actually an interesting use case. I mean, we'll have to see. She's definitely going to improve. So now moving over to her star power Buffies. So Push It star power is receiving a slight rework as well. If you guys didn't know, I always hated this star power, mainly because brawlers could attack you whilst you're pushing them, so leaving you very vulnerable, and often it actually get you killed if you use this star power. So now you are, well, you stun the opponents for 0.2 seconds at the maximum distance. So what this should allow is, well, it should allow for brawlers to not attack you when you super them. So again, you're not at a net negative when you're using this star power. That is pretty nice. And then the buffied version of this star power, her super dash speed is very fast. So you could actually get some really good chains from this star power. Just imagine like a couple of tanks running against you. You could just quickly, you know, push it someone far away, and then the next brawler comes, you can push them far away and just deal a lot of damage. This could be really nice, and especially as an anti-tank option. Colette is also receiving a slight rework to mass attack star power as well, so she'll just gain a 75% less damage when she just uses her super. Plain and simple. I think you had to hit somebody to even gain any type of damage reduction, but if you hit somebody, you will gain a 30% damage reduction shield as well, so like afterwards. So that's really nice. I like this one in general. I'm a little bit conflicted. I'm definitely going to try out both. I think both could be really strong, but the buffied version of mass attacks makes it so you will steal 33% of the ammo from any brawler's hit. So I could imagine this one's really going to help you to chain as well. I can imagine, you know, you hit somebody, and especially when you're low on ammo, you get more ammo. That means you're going to cycle back to your super much quicker. Yeah, I think Colette's going to be very, very powerful with all these buffies. So now moving on to Colette's buffied hypercharge. So just in general, the hypercharge duration has been extended by 2 seconds, which is going to be pretty nice. But her main attack, there'll be a smaller projectile, which will follow Colette's just main attack and deal a little bit less damage. But this will just help her with the lack of damage that she has right now in 1 versus 1 fights. It's just going to help her cycle super faster. It's going to be a pretty, not like really broken one, but it's going to be strong. You're going to feel the impact. Trust me, I definitely felt the impact even against bots. So just going through all of the buffies, I think after this, I think it's very easy to say to me personally, Colette will be an S tier brawler in the meta. Anti-tanks, there's always going to be use cases, especially because not really a lot of tanks and assassins received nerfs with the balance changes. So she's definitely going to be needed. She's definitely going to be back in the meta, guys. So invest in Colette as early as possible. Now we're going to be moving over to Griff's Buffies, and these ones are a little bit toxic, and especially this first one. This first one, I just don't think it should be in the game personally. You might think, okay, it doesn't seem that good, right? What's the use in this? Like, especially because, you know, most people won't find it interesting because it doesn't team wipe, right? It doesn't shoot for a wall and deal 10,000 damage. But anyways, Griff's piggy bank gadget now makes it so you can throw it. Just already that change is a very, very strong one, guys. Trust me. It's very, very good because with Griff, the main reason why I use him is to break open a map in pro play right now. And if he's receiving buffs to his main... Anyway, we'll go through that. But now you can shoot the piggyback bank with your main attack, and it causes it to progressively get higher and higher explosion radius and damage. The piggy bank will explode when it's fully charged. So you might think, right, okay, so you have to hit this piggy bank, right? So that might be hard, blah, 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 blah. So that's probably like their... I don't know, their reason as to why they've done this, but it's very easy to still hit your piggy bank. All you gotta do is just throw it onto a wall you already would have destroyed and just quickly shoot it, and it'll explode. So if you've seen a few of the clips already, you can explode in like hot potato. You can explode both sets of walls. With Griff's piggy bank before, you could just about explode one of the left walls. So you can basically explode 2 times the amount, maybe even 3 times the amount of the map. Just think about this in pro play, right? Or just in general. There's a few maps in the game, well, quite a few maps in the game where a couple of these gadgets will completely open the map. That just makes it very, very hard for a lot of brawlers to thrive and prosper. Like, he's just going to be the ultimate counter pick option, or just ultimate option in general. So yeah, this one I'm very, very worried about. It shouldn't explode as much as it does, especially with a click of a green button, guys. At least if it's, you know, if you earn a super, you have the right to, you know, have a broken ability, right? Well, not broken, but you know what I mean. But with a click of a button gadget, you're just getting it for the sake of it. I'm the most scared about this one. Griff's gadget number 2 is receiving a rework, and the rework to it is that it throws a shower of coins at a target area, dealing continuous damage, and then the Buffy allows it to grow in size throughout its duration. I mean, it looks cool, it looks funny, but there's absolutely zero chance in pro play that this gadget will get used. It just doesn't even... Again, just looks like, oh wow, is this some extra damage? You just wait for it to time out, and then that's it. So yeah, I mean... It's cool, it's a nice idea, but it's not going to replace the first gadget. It's just pointless. Griff's Star Power 1 is receiving a rework as well. So keep the change normally would have just made you have faster projectiles, which years ago that used to be the better one, but business resilience has been a better one for a while. So they're reworking it. So Griff will gain a slightly wider attack with an additional row of coins. So this is increasing your damage. So now I can see a lot of people switching to this one already, because who doesn't want extra damage? It's, you think of a lot of brawlers, right? Any brawler in their star power that has extra bit of damage, extra projectile, for example, they're just automatically going to be ran every single time. So yeah, there is this case with Griff already, but the buffed version of this star power, the attacks fired with full ammo will also have a mega coin that deals extra damage in the center. So you got to have maximum ammo for this, but equals more damage already with an extra row of coins as well. I can see the star power being very strong. Griff's business resilience Buffy doesn't really sound too interesting, but it's okay. Yeah, we'll see. So Griff's super projectiles, when they return to him, they will heal him for 5% of his missing health. So I guess it's just extra healing, and just he's going to be extra annoying. But because of the rework with star power number 1 and the Buffies feels stronger there, I think a lot of people, and especially the pros, will probably be switching to that star power extra GPS. How can you run away from that? So I'm not overly impressed with this star power Buffy, but definitely a lot more with the other one. So now moving over to Griff's hypercharge Buffy, and this, to begin with, sounds pretty toxic, but I think it'd be hard to really find all that much value with it. So his main attack will now pierce enemies during hypercharge. So the biggest thing is just a hypercharge duration buff, because that's going to allow him to chain a lot easier with his super, and his super already goes through walls as well, and you end up just getting team wipes anyway through his super. I mean, I guess it can help, and especially if you pop this hypercharge before you get your super, it could definitely help for sure. So overall, when we take a look at Griff, I think again he's going to be an S tier brawler in the meta. I mean, maybe an A tier brawler in the meta. But I think with Piggy Bank, is going to be very toxic. I think pros will use keep the change star power as well. Just, I don't think I'm overly impressed with the Buffies with Griff in general, but I just really think that piggy bank gadget is going to be the main reason why it's going to be fly up the meta in my opinion. So yeah, Buffies not too impressed other than the first gadget. So now let's move on to the final brawler that's receiving a Buffy. So I didn't also mention as well, a lot of people were asking, just for this update, because there's 3 brawlers, they've only released 3 Buffied brawlers, and future updates it will be 6 Buffies per update, and I'm hoping even more in the future. I know it's probably healthy for the game if it's only released in batches like this, but if they're only going to release 3 Buffies an update, which a lot of people thought, it would take years and years and years and years for them to release all of them. At this point, I just want them to release them as quickly as possible so then we can adjust to the meta. Anyways, Edgar. Yeah, this one's going to be pretty good, I imagine. I'm excited for this because it actually adds a little bit of skill to Edgar. Dare I say it? Oh my god. Edgar and skillful in the same sentence? Yeah, I'm probably just going to... Yeah, anyways, his first gadget, Let's Fly, is receiving a rework. If you saw it in Brawl Talk, Edgar will throw out his scarf and he'll latch onto a brawler or a wall, so an extra jump, which is actually pretty cool. So with the Buffy version, Edgar will also gain a speed boost for a short time when successfully launching onto a wall or a brawler. So yeah, he'll just be extra bit fast. I mean, the Buffy version isn't all that strong, but the gadget rework is really interesting. I'm excited to test it out. So now moving on to gadget number 2, Buffy, Hardcore. So that's not changing at all, just for gadget in general. But his Buffed version, he will gain an immunity to crowd control for 1 second. So just literally think of Frank's gadget right now. You're immune to like any type of knockback or just any type of stun, which is only for 1 second. So I did kind of rage bait a lot of people on Twitter. Like, oh my god, he's getting an immunity ability. I'm unsure, right? Because what you've got to realize with Hardcore, you're sacrificing the first gadget, which first gadget will always just be the strongest one, because you think about Edgar, right? You've got to wait a long time to gain your first super. He has no range, so it's a sit and duck when you're using Hardcore. But I think with immunity crowd control, yeah, I mean, it's only 1 second window, so you've got to have good reaction times, and you know, sometimes good players might be able to bait it out. But if you're thinking of, you know, a lot of the crowd control abilities, if you time it correctly, you could not be unstoppable, but it could be very toxic. I'll have to wait and see. I don't want to overreact too much, but I just don't like any form of immunity with assassins, and I don't know, it just doesn't leave a nice feeling for me. But yeah, we'll try it out. Now moving over to Edgar's star powers. So star power number 1, hard landing, is receiving a slight rework, and it's actually some nice buffs. I might actually use this over fisticuffs. So Edgar will deal damage to enemies when landing on them with super, as always, but the closer they are to the epicenter, so the center of the landing, the more damage they will take. And it also works with Let's Fly gadget now, so when you use the gadget jump and you land on somebody, it will deal extra damage as well. So an extra reason to use this star power. But moving on to the Buffy, if you hit a brawler within the epicenter, it also charges Edgar's super. So if you guys don't know what epicenter is, just the middle of the attack, which you can see with his jump. I think this actually could be a really good star power, because you think about it, it charges your next super faster, it deals extra damage as well. I think this might be the better one, because Edgar has been lacking the damage in the 1 vs 1s, especially at a pro level. This one could be really toxic. Star power number 2, fisticuffs. Buffy doesn't sound all that impressive to me, in my opinion, but when you score a brawler takedown, Edgar will also heal a max percent HP instantly. So it will receive some nice health, but again, I don't think that's really the biggest problem with Edgar, personally. You'll get in that health increase after you've already gained the kill. I think with Edgar, to make him better, you need extra damage in the 1v1 as much as possible, especially at pro levels. So yeah, I really see the first star power being way better with these Buffies. So moving on to the last change, it is with Edgar's hypercharge Buffy. So now he will throw out 2 additional scarves at longer range. They will deal less damage, but enemies at close range can be hit by both Edgar's normal attacks and the hypercharge attacks. So you think about it, right? A lot of people are concerned that, you know, with Edgar, normally you can like chain 3-4 jumps in a row, because you could pop Let's Fly gadget at the same time as the hypercharge, etc. But what you're forgetting now with his hypercharge is you're charging your super back much quicker. It's an additional 2 projectiles. You're dealing more damage. You're cycling more effectively. He's going to have extra range as well. You know, if a brawler just about runs away from you somehow, you can still deal a little bit of damage to them. I mean, I don't know how useful the extra range of damage, but just the extra projectiles will definitely help him out in a 1 versus 1. So with all of these changes to especially, I think both gadgets will definitely have its use case. I think star power number 1 will be pretty strong, and the hypercharge on top of this, hypercharge buffy, is going to be pretty good as well. I don't see a world where Edgar is below A tier. I'm going to predict S tier, but yeah, he's easily going to be one of the best brawlers in the game. He's definitely back in the meta. So that is going to be it for today's video, guys. I'm not going to go through like a lot of the skins and a lot of the collabs. You know, if you want to see that type of thing, you can go over to other content creators who really break it down pretty well. But in terms of the overall meta, again, I'm a little bit disappointed by the balance changes overall. I'm a bit disappointed by Narja's hypercharge being so broken. And the buffies are actually pretty refreshing, a lot of them. But, you know, Griff's buffies aren't entirely the best, but his gadget buff is really good. Of course, Edgar's got some broken abilities, and Colette is probably going to go from F tier to S tier, which is pretty nice. So that's going to be it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.